Hey everybody, welcome back to the K2N Online Paddle School. We are back here on YouTube with another episode of the K2N vlog. So as you can see here, I have a little bit of sunburn that is going on. I have a blown blood vessel in my eye. We have had a lot of paddlers make the pilgrimage down to Hernando in order to spend some time honing their technique, and as a consequence, I've been on the water all day today. Currently it is Monday night. I usually do these in the morning, but I haven't had any time since I've been on and off the water all day. In particular, this time of year, there are a lot of dragon boat selection camps, both for the Canadian teams as well as the US teams. You have all kinds of different age divisions and their camps are on different weekends, and a lot of paddlers from up north are trying to find some time to hone their skills before the selection process begins. So I'm very fortunate many people select K2N, coming down, using our boat, getting our coaching here, involving themselves with our club practices, and just kind of getting all of this water time. I enjoy it tremendously. I love being on the water, getting some mileage for myself, coaching people. It's always a joy. A lot of that stems from the YouTube channel, the social media, the website, all of that. Thanks to all of you watching and thinking of K2N and making the time to come down here and get some coaching. So normally when we do this, it is 90-minute sessions, and we do one session in the morning and one session in the evening, right? So I have a lot of different groups that are here in Hernando currently. So I'm on the water 3 to 4.5 hours in the morning, and then the same thing in the evening. Then we also have a morning practice and an evening practice for my normal club routine. And somewhere in between all of that chaos, I need to film, eat food, get some paddle time in for myself for my own personal training, right? So it's a lot of fun trying to balance all these ideas. I don't have any race footage from the previous weekend. We were just doing club practices. So I'm gonna splice in footage at the end of our club practices and do some commentary of what's going on within the video. So this week I wanted to go through understanding the paddle stroke in going through the motion versus having an aptitude for understanding the paddle. Dragon boat, especially when we're teaching in a group context with people that are novices, we need to get them up to speed pretty quickly in order to put them into a team boat to be in synchronization and in rhythm with the people that are around them. And the easiest way to do this is to teach them very sequential motions, right? We want them to do this and this and this. And as we go through the motions, it looks very robotic, and they're not really feeling the water or feeling the tool. They're going through the motion. And going through the motion is only a very small part of dynamic motion. If I were to throw a ball and I were to go through these very specific posing motions, I would look really good as I was going through these motions, but because there's not fluidity and power, the moment I open my hand, the ball would just drop, right? The only way that we can throw a ball fluidly with dynamic motion is we don't go through the motion, we are understanding the aptitude to put power into the hand to throw something. If I go through the motion and look really good and let go, there's no power transfer. And many people do this within their own paddle stroke. They are taught to pose and to look a very specific way, but they don't have an understanding of utilizing the paddle itself in order to grab water. This is one of the biggest distinctions in being a competent paddler as opposed to just going through the motion of paddling. And one of the reasons I'm bringing this up is I have come to a realization that there is a hierarchy of performance, and paddlers that go through a motion and have difficulty connecting their movement to the tool, which is the paddle, to grab the water, are easily defeated by people that have this aptitude with incredibly poor movement patterns. So what I mean by that is paddlers are using their whole body, but because they're going through the motion and not connecting everything and not creating a lot of force on the paddle, they're beat by people that are doing the motion in a very simplistic way. And the simplistic way is arm paddling. When a paddler understands that they need to get force onto the paddle by just using their elbows and pushing into the water, they are connecting some energy into the tool, into the water. They have an aptitude for understanding what the goal is, right? And by simply arm paddling, they go faster than somebody going through the motion with their entire body in a very low performance way. And it's almost a shame to see, right? Because when you go through the motion, there's so many complex ideas. Do this with your hand and elbow and shoulder and your thoracic spine and your lower back and your hips and your knees and your ankle, and use this all together. But when the person doesn't get it and they're not able to connect any of that energy into the tool in a competent way, somebody using simply their elbows but using the paddle effectively defeats them. And I'm sure we've all seen that before, both in the canoe and the kayak, where somebody is just using their arms and going a pretty respectable speed. What they're doing is they're connecting some energy, and they can feel the paddle blades through the water, the shaft changing its angles to give them speed. They have an aptitude for understanding the tool. Their holdup is they can't use their whole body to do it. They're just using the small joints to do it. Again, this is a shame. Somebody that can beat you using only their elbow joints is a shame when you're trying to use your whole body, but it's a very common thing that we start to see within some of these paddle dynamics. So within that hierarchy, the one that goes above arm paddling is somebody that is using more joints of the body. So if you have an aptitude for using the tool and now you can connect your entire body into the stroke, now you are a tier above somebody that is using fewer joints. But using all of your joints is not immediately putting you above somebody using lesser joints if you don't have this understanding of how to put the energy into the tool. And this is what makes paddling so technical. You can be very strong in the air, but how do I put it into a tube that's grabbing something that is not a solid object? The ability to do this and wield this tool and grab something that is liquid is very learned. It's very technical, and a lot of people don't understand how to do this. They understand how to go through the motion that they're taught, but they don't know how to use this thing to grab that liquid. And it sounds very basic and it sounds very simple, and many paddlers that learn on their own learn this aptitude inherently. That's why they enjoy the sport. But many people go through these rhythmic, systematic motions and never learn to feel how to use their tool or interact with the water. They simply just know how to go through the motion in the air. And that's the biggest distinction, is trying your best to understand these differences. If you paddle in flat water in a team setting, it is incredibly hard to feel these ideas. If you paddle individually, and you introduce exterior factors that force you to paddle in a competent way, then it's very easy to learn. For example, if you have a wave coming at you, and if you don't paddle and move your boat, you're going to end up wrecked. There is now an incentive to grab water and use the tool to move the vessel, or there's a consequence, right? So many paddlers that learn in the surf have to do or die in a lot of situations, and this is what allows them to learn these ideas versus paddlers that face no consequence. Oh, I'm never going to flip. The boat is always going to move with or without my input. If I take poor strokes, nothing bad is going to happen. There is no reason to understand anything more than just going through the motion. Only when you insert that paddler into an individual boat, they struggle, they don't understand, they don't quite get it, and other paddlers do get it. And that's what the it factor is here, is your ability to connect into a tool, into the water, and feeling that connection specifically. So overall, the idea is don't go through the motion. The motion is only a small part of the puzzle. Your ability to connect with the water is the bigger piece of the puzzle. Excellent. Thank you guys so much for checking out the video this week. We will see you all next week with another vlog episode. All right, everybody, welcome back to Lake Hernando. We got Eleanor and Ray here in the club's OC2. I'm in the OC1. My wife is in the surf ski. This was practice on, I think, last Wednesday. And Christina hit a new PR in the surf ski. She hasn't been doing a lot of surf ski or any surf ski paddling. She's just been doing the OC1 and steering the OC6. And a lot of that strength coming from the canoe stroke translates right back over to the surf ski, so she's able to get a little bit more per stroke, and she was averaging almost 7 miles an hour for the 5K, which is pretty good for her. That's her new PR by like 90 seconds or something. So a lot of that transferable fitness and, you know, feeling with the water and stuff is definitely there from one discipline to the other. So we got another practice here steering the OC6. We have some paddlers down from Canada. They're staying at Rainbow River and typically doing the marathon canoe, dabbling in the outrigger canoe. So in the OC2, we have 2 of them going around the buoy, paddle around with us. Always a joy having people from out of state, out of country, coming down to Hernando and paddling with us, especially on the 5K. It's always a battle. This is 2 separate turns, right? So we do 2 laps around the lake. This is the top turn. Each turn we're side by side and managing the space, managing the turns, keeping things close. It's always a lot of fun, right? So this is the iron sharpening iron that makes everybody push a little extra hard. If you're able to paddle in a group environment and you have somebody nearby, it's just that little extra that you need within your training. Like, you don't run as fast as you could unless you're being chased by a wolf, right? And it's hard to find that internal motivation without having some external factor there, especially if you're competitive. The missing ingredient to that is you have to care about losing. So if you don't want to lose, you'll push hard. But if you can't be bothered about winning or losing, it's hard to find, again, that extra push needed sometimes in your training to help make that progress steadily increase itself. So the Wild Hog is coming up. So this was last Thursday's morning practice. And I'm in the plastic V7. It's 55 pounds. It's a short, fat surf ski. My wife is in the Stellar SES, which at one time was the most elite boat in the Stellar lineup. And it actually ended up being a pretty close little duel here, especially with the wind. The rudder system on this one, I found out it's an overstern, and the entire mounting head, it's like a metal plate that it sits on, is warped. And it's from the Wild Hog last year. I have barely used the boat since. So each time I turn the rudder, it doesn't turn left to right. It tilts on the x-axis, right? So it actually like tilts left and right as opposed to turning. And it just causes a little extra drag. So I was wondering, I was paddling, I'm like, man, I am out of shape. This boat's heavy, I'm getting weak. And then I realized like the rudder is just absolutely killing me. But Christina doing a good job holding draft position and following me around the lake a few times here. Again, just a little extra push, having somebody there externally to follow. And we have Betty here coming down from Connecticut, teaching her how to fly the AMA. And boom, look at that. First time she's ever flown the AMA. Most people that are terrified, petrified of flipping over or having the AMA come up, it's like a magic trick being able to go through the little steps of bracing, leaning, and then flying the AMA ultimately. It's easier in the OC2 because I can help with that process, but ultimately the skills transfer over. And then another day, steering the OC6, Christina is in the surf ski, drafting the OC2. And this is one of our typical evening practices. As you can see, going around, doing the loop. We get to the top turn 1,000 meters away and everybody's almost on top of each other. It works out very well. And it's always fun. So having the push, you can see the boat next to you, right? You have a goal in mind. Do you paddle harder? Do I paddle faster? You have to do something to start closing some of these gaps and increasing your boat speed, so that it factor in moving a vessel and having the aptitude for wielding your tool, some of that stuff finds you in these do or die moments. If you're paddling by yourself and you don't know how fast you're going and you don't track your distance per stroke, none of these ideas are ever gonna be bestowed upon you magically, right? You have to kind of trial and error, and a lot of these are nice when you have something tangible right next to you, that it's up to you, your input, and your ability to move the boat, right? And you learn a lot about what can you do to move a boat faster. Going through the motion is never enough, right? It's all about finding that pressure in the water and moving the boat competently. All right, everybody, that is it. Thank you so much for checking out the vlog series. If you haven't subscribed, don't forget to do so. And we'll see you all next week for our next K2N vlog episode.